Hi, welcome to Color Speak. It's Janet Huxley with you today. And today I have a treat for you because I have a movie producer and a screenwriter. And listen, my guest today actually was a part owner of the Chicago Cubs when they won the 2016 World Series. So Christopher D. White is very credentialed. He is a product of the Midwest, born and raised in the Chicagoland area. And he is here to talk about his newest endeavor, a book that he co-wrote entitled His Final Answer. And so, Christopher, it is so great to have you on the show. Tell us some more about you.
Thank you so much for having me and everybody there. Um, this is I'm mostly known as a screenwriter and a filmmaker and a producer and a director, but this is my first novel. I did write a book before about the World War II generation, a tribute book, actually before uh, somebody else's book came out and took over the market, who was super famous. But so I did do a book before, but I've never done a novel. And this has just been so rewarding, as rewarding as filmmaking is, I must say. And it's a lot cheaper, by the way, to write a book and self, publish it, which I have. It's a heck of a lot less zeros on it than millions making films. I'll say that. And I got to tell you something. Honestly, it's almost as rewarding. I mean, very close as rewarding for anybody out there. And I think, and Janet, you write too. I think that you agree. I think that everybody, I always said this, has at least one good book in them somewhere.
Love it. Love to hear that. And
Yeah.
you have a story that didn't Ed Asner play a part in? I thought I read somewhere.
Ed Asner,
Okay.
Ed Asner, in my first movie about a family that goes back to Vietnam to look for the remains of their son who got shot down. Plays the father in that movie. It's called Missing Brendan. By the way, it's just got remastered and it's on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. It's a wonderful story. It did very well when it came out. And any veterans out there or anybody that really wants to know sort of what the Vietnam War debate was about, I
Mhm.
cover both sides of it. There's a big family in there. And I also gave Adam Brody, a young actor, his first dramatic role. And then he went on to bigger things, and he's still doing some pretty big things. That was the first movie I made in 2001. 2001. So it's called Missing Brendan. If anybody wants to see it, again, it's on Apple TV and still Amazon Prime remastered, totally remastered.
I will absolutely be looking for that later today because that's something I would be very interested in. I'm very interested in history and I've always gravitated to any kind of war information. I just think it's
Yeah.
fascinating. Um, and I'm not just talking about the act of, I mean, the reasons why we do what we do. I do have some friends that co-authored a book, a husband and wife team that wrote Nine Pairs of Boots in Vietnam. That was Stephen and Rosemary Williams. And they wrote about his experience in Vietnam as well as point man and all of the miraculous things that happened to him while he was there in Vietnam. So I actually wrote a foreword or an endorsement in that book. So I
Was
recommend
he
it.
in recon?
It's called Nine
Was he
Pairs
in recon?
in Vietnam.
Do you know if he was a recon guy in the front lines of the point
Yes, he was point
recon?
man. He was the guy that was,
Okay.
yeah, that went into the.
One of my best friends, who is the idol of my life, was in recon there too. He's 72 years old now, and he's the most amazing human being I've ever met in my life. He just is such a great person, very successful at business in the Chicago area. And I'm sorry, that just kind of piqued my interest when you said that too. So
Well, I'm glad you did,
we
and we
might
talked
know each
about
other.
earlier.
Who knows?
Yeah, I love that. Well, we talked about earlier not following a script and just
Yeah.
seeing where we were going, which is just the delight in this. I love the organic nature of that. And just I was thinking
Yeah.
too, I'm just throwing that out there. But Steve is one of those people like your friend, probably very, very kind, very laid back, very just a very calm, beautiful
Yeah.
nature. And his wife was over here in the Midwest praying for him while he was over there. And then the stories that happened at the time, it was just one of them that really stood out to me was one night when he was point man and they were working their way through the jungle. And all of a sudden he had this idea, this voice from God said, stop now. Now they can't see 2 inches in front of them. It is so thick and so dark. He said, everyone just drop now. We're camping right here. When the morning sun came up, they saw there was a booby trap right in front of them. So it was a lot of those moments where he was given grace and protected. And so I thought that story was just very cool from that angle of it. So, because you don't hear a lot about God in war.
Wow.
You hear about all the things that happen, but not all of the ways that some people were protected. So tell us about this story that you've written, his final answer.
Well, he was also can I say this?
Oh, absolutely.
My friend was also with a very famous pro football player who wrote a book. People could probably figure out if they know anything about Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a running back. Again, I don't like to say names, in respect to the families either way. But he served with him, and they're still best friends to this day. This famous guy that was in the championship Pittsburgh Steelers running back, and that got me going there now when you said that too. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that's great. I love it. That's very interesting. Awesome. Well, so now, Chris, what is this new project, which is really something different for you? You've kind of stepped outside of the box and you've tackled this idea of writing a novel. Why a novel?
Because you know what? I've never written a novel before. That's why. I always wanted to write a novel. It was on my bucket list.
Me
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Winning a World Series with the Cubs and writing a novel were my next book. And look what happened.
Well, I have to say, winning the World Series is not on my bucket list, but the novel part is, and it's challenging, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really when I sat down to do it, and mine's not out yet, it will be soon, but just to do it, I just felt like I'm really having to get out of my comfort zone to think differently. Because as someone who enjoys telling,
No question.
yeah, I have to use your imagination.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if anything relaxes me more in this world than writing, quite honestly.
Mm. Yeah,
Maybe
me.
rock and roll 80s music, but that's about it.
So, what is his final answer about?
Well, the title of the novel tells it all. He through his inability to grieve over the loss of his son for the last 20 years and what that's done collaterally to his marriage, his belief in himself. He blames, a lot of these situations, people blame themselves, the couples. Obviously, I can imagine the divorce rate of this happening to people like that too. I'm sure it's very high. So I read that in my research, which doesn't surprise me. But so his final answer is, he's no young guy. He's 70 years old, 69 years old. And he's coming to a point here where he's going to have to really, you know, um, make a final statement to his God and to his family and to himself about is he really ever going to reconcile with that or not? You know what I'm saying? There's a day of reckoning, as you know, for everybody, and is he going to do that or not? So,
Well, and I want
and I'm
to.
not only talking religion; I'm talking everything. Yeah,
Right. Well, you and I spoke earlier, and I also wanted to say you indicated that this Color Speak is the very first podcast that you're coming on with this grand circuit that you're doing with Media
a
Blitz.
marketing campaign
Yeah,
starting this
yeah,
week today.
yeah, with radio and television and all of that. And so this is really great. So
Yeah,
thanks for stopping down here. So you had mentioned, and I just want to revisit what our conversation looked like in the beginning before we started recording, because I think it's very poignant. So there are so many of us that have been touched by the sudden loss of someone who has overdosed. That's the nature of our society.
yeah.
We each have a story in mind that we carry with us. And you had talked about your reasons for deciding to tackle this sort of subject. Would you want to share those with us?
Yeah, well, I was affected by it by this a long time ago when I told you there was a famous Hollywood TV legend in an interview when he was definitely getting much older and he really didn't know how much he had left, and he talked about never getting the loss of his son through a drug overdose, and that affected me. And then not long after that, I had one friend, and then it's ended up now being many friends, more than a few friends that have lost their children either very young at the age 10 all the way up to age 35 so. And then I had one of my better friends that lost his son, told me that everyone thought he was getting better after a couple of years, but he told me quite honestly it was a facade, and he's not doing that great still, but he tries to put on a smiley face And that's kind of what I wasn't surprised by it, knowing what these people go through. But in
Mhm.
my research, I did find that a lot of people that get help actually do a lot better uh, than the ones that don't, put it that way, later on in life. You know what I mean? And honestly, right now, I have a family member, without getting too descriptive, that's fighting for her life too, with exactly what you're talking about with the fentanyl and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So this really is hitting home right now with me, again, unfortunately. So yeah, so his final answer is he going to finally reconcile or not? Because it could be too late if for people that believe that you better be a believer, on that day. You know what I mean? It's pretty important to
Yeah.
reconcile.
Yeah.
Right? And it's funny because I told you, with me, you don't know what I'm going to say, and I don't even know that. I talked to a very top Catholic uh, person in, like, very, very top in the Chicago diocese. And he helped my late brother, who passed away a year and a half ago. So I got to know this gentleman quick. And I asked him, uh, what happens if somebody says they're not a believer? Because my brother had days to live at that point. You know what I'm saying? When I had a long talk for dinner with this Chicago diocese gentleman. And you know what? He really he really had a hard time answering that question. He really had a hard time answering that question. And I was in front of 6 or 8 other people, family members there, and they were like, you know what? This guy is a great, great, great person too. He was amazing to our family. But he kind of admitted I kind of got him off guard. I would think he would get asked that a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And this guy is probably in his 60s, mid 60s. So you'd think he would have been asked this before. But I haven't shown him this book yet. I can't wait to get to him and show him the book. You know what I mean? And see what he thinks, because I know he'll read it, because that's how close we are with him. You know what I'm saying? But isn't that interesting that I kind of got him off guard with the question? And he's a very direct person too. I mean, he will tell you anything you need to hear. But I'll never forget that, my family. So I cannot wait to show this book to him and see what he says.
Yeah. Why do you think that is, Chris? And what is your hope for the book? Do you hope that the book is going to cause people, there's redemption in it, right? So you're going to
Yes,
there's a
yes.
healing purpose behind this.
My reviews already, even if people go on to Amazon reviews, uh, I've got emails that aren't on Amazon reviews, and I've got reviews from people that have written in. I've had a number of people tell me this book has really, uh, some say, basically changed their life right now in their life. To question, this is a very uncomfortable subject for a lot of people that won't read this because of that. But
Mhm.
other people are surprised that it's not as uncomfortable to read as they think it might be. You know what I'm saying? Which makes me feel good. So yeah, I just really want to affect people. If I can affect anybody, in any way, that's fine. I hope the book's successful. I hope they make a movie out of it. If it does that well. But it's really just, and I'm getting some really touching emails and reviews that people go on Amazon or Goodreads or whatever, and see them. And after this campaign, this 1 month intense campaign, I cannot wait to really see even more. This is going to be a pretty big campaign for the next 30 days. Yeah.
And we got to kick it off here at Color Speak. I love that.
You got to kick it off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. That is great. What an honor. One of those things that I really I talk a lot about in life is redemptive value. Because, Chris,
Right.
I feel like that's innate in all of us as human beings. We all have a desire for redemption, whether we recognize it or not, getting back to the priest's answer. And so for me, when something doesn't have that redemptive value, it rankles. So, of course, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. One of the things I didn't like about Hemingway, so I appreciated that Hemingway was out of the box and he was different at his time. But so much of his writing had no redemptive value. And I know that people like that, they laud it, it's artistic, whatever. But I would argue that the vast majority of us are looking for a happy ending. We're all looking for that happy ending. We're all looking for that redemptive value. We want to all see that there is gain for our pain, that our pain doesn't go unwasted or doesn't go wasted rather. We don't want to have to suffer through something if only to experience suffering at the end, which kind of circles back around to that priest answer. And that's why I asked, why do you think that is? Did you ever see the movie It was out in theaters just a couple of years ago, entitled Life After Death. It's great. I think you can
Not
see
that
it.
one.
I feel like you could see it on
Yeah.
Netflix or something now. It's so good
Oh,
because
I'm sure. I'll look
it's
it
a
up.
secular, very scientific approach to talking to people
Right.
who've had near-death experiences. And some of the, I mean, all of the experiences resoundingly point to the fact that there's something after this. Obviously, most of us believe that. And one of the things that really stood out to me was a guy who was drugged up out of his mind. And he comes out of that state and he says, I go from, when he crosses over, he said, I was just so relaxed and out of my mind. And then all of a sudden, I was more alive than I'd ever been in my life, so aware. And he said he had a decision to make, and there was another guy in there, and I can't remember specifically that one, but the other one that really stuck out to me was this guy's passing away, and he's saying out loud, why am I falling? He says, I'm falling and falling and falling, and I'm falling into this abyss, and it's dark and it's scary essentially, and he's saying, but me, I'm a
Yeah.
good person. Why? And the more he thought about himself, I'm a good person, the faster he fell. But the minute he said, okay, fine, God, whoever you are, save me. And that's when it stopped and he started being elevated up and came face to face with
Wow.
Jesus
Yeah.
and was given another chance, is my point. So I think it behooves us all to have these considerations while we're walking here on earth before those moments happen to us. It's coming for all of us. So I'm happy to hear that there's a redemptive value in your novel and that it's written for a purpose. What else do you want to say on it?
Well, I think his family also deserved the comfort too, not only for him primarily, to have the reconciliation or redemption, but it also it's important to us. He, I'm sure, underneath it all, felt it was important to his family too, what happened.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, I really want people to really wonder what's going on here with
Yes.
the book.
Ask
Yeah,
questions
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Not only have answers that they have to ponder and come about understanding themselves, but to during the process of it to be able to ask those questions and um, figure out how it applies to our own lives. Because I think what you said earlier that just hit a nail on the head for me was whether we have had this specific situation happen to us or we've had some other traumatic event, it's
yeah.
so important we don't continue to carry it with us throughout our life. Because,
Janet, it's so funny because a lot of the reviews that I got are people telling me this isn't about the loss of a loved one, but it's a loss about a tragedy in their life other than that. And this helps them. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
no, I think that's great. Because, and then the other thing that you said was that this is not something that people should shy away from. Because I think all of us tend to shy away from stories that don't make us feel comfortable, or we feel like, oh, yeah, I know that happens, but I don't really want to hear about it. But when we open our minds and our hearts to receiving the information, there's a wealth of learning and restoration, transformation that can happen, is basically what I'm hearing from you.
Yes,
Awesome.
yes.
Well, is there anything else you want to tell our audience? We said we would keep it short today, and I know that you're on the grand circuit. So, what else would you like us to
Yeah,
know?
I do want to tell them this. I think this is they might want to check it out for this. I have three different options for this book. Like I have audio, I have ebook, and I have paperback. And actually, I have a special edition, okay, of one of these, and it has photographs, illustrations. I think as a filmmaker, I wanted to make sure, and they're really quality illustrations in there. But that's a very expensive hardback to make, and it's a beautiful thing. But the good news is, right now on ebook, as for my promotion for the beginning of this book, for 99 cents on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, they can buy the ebook, and they get on their computer or wherever they watch it at, their iPad or whatever, all
Mhm.
the photos, the color illustrated photos. So rather than paying $35 for the book to get the hard copy, they could almost get most of the same thing for 99 cents if they order it through Amazon. But if you don't mind, I'd just like to say one thing too. Otherwise, I really get in trouble because I should. My co-writer, Jennifer Curran, it was her first novel, and we've known each other a long time. And she lost a sister when she was 15 years old to a tragedy. And she's a great poet. I really like her poetry a lot. And she's always wanted to write a novel. And I told her my idea here, and I knew she lost her sister. And she was added after I wrote all the main outlines and everything, mostly for descriptive purposes, because I know her poetry is so good. And she added a complete extra additional quality layer to this novel by her polish, so to say, as it is. It really, this book would not be received the way it was without Jennifer's poetic description. When people read it, they're going to really see, especially if you've never been to Iceland before, you're going to want to go to Iceland.
Oh, right. I wanted to ask
after
about
reading
that.
this book. Yeah. Yeah.
Why was
It's a
Iceland?
beautiful story. It's a beautiful story. I want a beautiful story told in a beautiful place. And Iceland is in the summer. Not the I'm a warm weather guy. It's not that warm in the summer, but it's tolerable. Is one of the 2 or 3 most beautiful places I've ever seen in the world, and that place affected me. And I always remember my partner is from Iceland, and I went to film school with at AFI in LA. We've been friends forever, and I've always told him I want to make a movie over there, too. Let alone write this novel. And that's why, because it's a beautiful story. I want to be told in a beautiful place. And the pictures, I'm telling you, people just get the ebook for 99 cents. They're going to love the pictures. And they're all, Iceland owes me for tourism. I'm telling you, if enough people read this book to want to go there. So, yeah.
So that was my question, is why Iceland? But you already had the roommate that was from Iceland and you love Iceland. I've never been. I want to go. So it must be beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not cold.
A lot of people like it there when it's cold. When it's
Mm-hmm.
cold. My niece went there for her with her husband, and they just loved. Of course, they're skiers too, and you can ski in Iceland. There's actually places you could ski. Yeah, but I was there. I've been there for 2 volcanoes when I've been there. I was up
Wow.
front, right by the volcano. I took a helicopter to the volcano close enough to be right next to it, and it's amazing. Yeah,
That does sound amazing.
but,
Wow. What an
but
opportunity.
it's a small place. It's a small place. Very educated people.
Mm-hmm.
Very educated people. They're, by the way, creatively, they're amazing. Per capita, whatever. The joke is everything's per capita because they're so small. They compare everything to, by the X amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
But they've had some major, amazing creative people in this world over the years, and now they really have. So anyway, so I wanted to give a shout out to Jennifer, and it's too bad she's traveling right now. She'll be with me on a lot of the other things we do. And anything people want to, that website is hisfinalanswer.com. And there's a lot of information on there, and they can probably get a hold of us that way too.
Okay. Yeah, I thank you for bringing up Jennifer because I had intended to ask you about her. So we know
Yeah.
she's traveling today, and I'm sorry that we missed her on this day, but looking forward to seeing her again in the future. Well, I'm excited. You've gotten me. I'm going to check it out, and I'm certainly going to take advantage of the
Yeah.
illustrations. That's amazing.
For 99 cents.
You can't beat it. Well, and I know as
Yeah.
someone who's published, I know how difficult it is to publish illustrations.
Right.
And so, yeah.
How costly it is.
Yeah,
Costly it is.
so
Yeah.
costly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so costly. And
That's
for
why the hardcovers,
Mhm.
again, Jenna, that's why the hardcover's $35.
Well, no, I understand. Like I think mine, I can't remember. It's been a few years now, but I have a kid's book that I make no profit on, and I would refuse to send
Wow.
it over because I did it during COVID. I refused to send it over to China for printing, where I could have had slicker printing for a
Yeah.
cheaper price. I just did the print on demand,
Right.
and not that great. One of these days, I might change it up. But I 100% understand what you're saying because what most people don't understand is that when you go into the publishing business to publish your own novel or book or children's book or whatever, it costs you. I don't care, somehow it's going to cost you, even
Right.
traditionally publishing. So that's great. Wonderful that you made that available.
I have around 20 illustrations, but that's just right for
Mhm.
by the way, this book is a plane ride read. It's only 45,000 words, which isn't, just barely meets the novel threshold, so to speak.
Okay.
So it's an easy read, though. I think it's a very easy read. It really is.
Well, I think at 45,000 words, it's easier to turn it into a screenplay. When I start thinking in my head about turning things into screenplays, I
Yeah,
think, oh my gosh, I'm a wordy person.
yeah, yeah.
No, well,
Well,
good.
but we were short and sweet. I mean, it's still long enough. I mean, it's a take you a while to read it. It's not like of course, some of the most famous books in the world, as you know, were less than 20,000 words. Some of them, you know what I mean? Well,
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, it's not
Yeah.
common now, but they used to be. Some, you know. So
Well, I know that there's
anyway,
a lot of argument that people don't have the attention spans that they once did, Chris, but I
yeah.
love a good novel and I love having words to read. And I usually find myself wanting more, wanting a sequel or something. So um, if it's a 20,000 word novel, I'm probably not going to be as happy as if it's a 45,000 word novel. So very good.
Right,
All right. Well, I
right.
think that about covers it, unless you have something else you want to tell us.
No, if you need any more, you know how to get a hold of me. If you ever want to talk to Jennifer, trust me, she'll talk a lot longer than I will. And
A great
she's
job.
actually, we're working on a movie about her. She's had a very interesting life, to say the least. And actually, we're going to write. She's writing her own novel. Already started on it now. She's one of the most interesting women I've ever met in my life, and her modeling back in Paris when she was 20 years old, and that's just the start of it. Her life, besides modeling too, is just it's amazing. I'm really looking forward to working with her on it, and we're starting to work on that now too. So
Well, you'll have to be back on the show then and tell me all about it because I would
yeah,
love to know
yeah.
more. I would love to meet Jennifer. So I'm sorry I missed her today.
All right. Well, Janet, thanks for the kickoff. I'll let you know. You know, people in certain cities are going to see the initial marketing TV spots and all that. Thanks for it, and that's going to tell a lot. And then I'm just going to hopefully get a lot of people. I would love if they would send in reviews to Amazon or Goodreads or whatever, because that really makes my day. It's a lot more than about making a book to be able to make a movie or make the movie that. So, and then people can check out my other films too. I told you about Missing Brendan, about Vietnam with Ed Asner, my first movie about a family going to Vietnam to find the remains of their lost son. That film did very well. That was my first movie back in 2001, and that's on Apple TV and Amazon. And then I have other movies too. When people look at the book, obviously I give my plugs to my other work too, including my first book that I did and some other things too. A lot of stuff's in the book in that 170 page, 180 page novel. There's a lot of things in there. A lot of things in there.
Well, I'm definitely going to be looking for Missing Brennan because I'm always looking for things to watch and never really finding anything that suits. And I'm also going to check out the ebook for His Final Answer.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was Brendan, right? You got Brendan,
Brendan.
Brendan.
I was
Brendan.
going to ask
Yeah.
you for that clarity earlier, and then the way that I heard it just now, I thought I had it. So thank you for clarifying. Missing Brendan. Yeah, that's great. And yeah, can't wait to check out the book. Chris, this is great.
Okay. Yeah, I'll drop you a text or an email and let you know how things are going, Jan. If you want to get a
I
hold
would
of me,
appreciate that. Yeah, I really would. That would be great. So
I gotta tell you, you and Jennifer would get along quite well. Quite
I
well.
think
I'm really sorry she could make.
I know. Well,
Yeah.
maybe she needs to come back on and talk with me some more about it when she's available. So just we can set that up.
Well, I'll let her know that. I'm gonna have her watch us recording and then she'll. Okay.
That sounds awesome. All right. Well, I'll let the audience go right now, but stick with me for a second. And the rest of you, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you tuning into Color Speak, and I hope that your world is full of color and lots of reading. So go check out Chris's book. Again, it's His Final Answer by Jennifer Curran and Chris White. Okay. Bye.